Greetings, this is Dyslexy from the Arma community group Shack Tactical. In cooperation with Bohemia Interactive, I'm creating a series of videos that explain some of the basics of Arma 3. Today we'll be talking about guerrilla warfare concepts, something which factors heavily into the Arma 3 campaign. Guerrilla warfare is an asymmetrical form of combat in which a smaller, less equipped and irregular force fights against a larger, more conventional military force. The asymmetry comes in a number of forms, such as equipment quality and effectiveness, numbers, training, access to supporting assets or heavy weapons, and general technological capability. Due to this, a guerrilla force has to work carefully within their own limitations in order to be effective. And on top of that, they have to be very aware of the enemy's capabilities in order to maximize their own chances for survival and success. The equipment disparity between guerrillas and conventional forces is often vast. In Arma 3, the conventional military benefits from many technological edges. They have armored vehicles such as tanks, armored personnel carriers, and infantry fighting vehicles, infantry armor systems, scopes, suppressors, and top-notch weapons, anti-tank and anti-aircraft guided missiles, unmanned aerial vehicle support, helicopter transportation and gunship support, close air support, artillery, thermal optics, and night vision goggles, and even more. Guerrillas, on the other hand, can't expect to have that kind of firepower or technology. They operate with more basic weapons. If they want the fancy stuff, they have to capture it from the enemy. Transportation is often in civilian vehicles, and the best they can hope for is to mount something like a 50 caliber machine gun onto a truck bed and try to use that as a mobile heavy machine gun. Aircraft and armored vehicles are generally out of the question, and equipment capable of fighting back against such assets is often limited. If a guerrilla force went toe-to-toe with a conventional force, the outcome would inevitably be a total, crushing defeat for the guerrillas, and thus they do everything in their power to avoid this. Guerrillas have many things working in their favor to help offset the greater capabilities of their conventional force enemy. For one, they generally get to choose where and when they fight. They can easily blend in with the indigenous population and exploit that to carry out reconnaissance and movement without drawing undue attention. They need only act as normal civilians to avoid arousing suspicion. The best guerrilla operation starts with a well thought out plan. It's important to choose the target carefully, keeping in mind the assets available, as well as the likely forces that the enemy will try to bring to the fight. Having the right gear is important. You can't raid an enemy outpost that has on-call helicopter gunship support if you don't have a way to mitigate that threat. The same is true if you want to ambush a convoy. If you don't have anti-tank gear available, it'd be unwise to start a fight with a convoy that's guarded by tanks or other armor. Pick a target that fits your force composition and weaponry. You'll generally be looking at two types of actions as a guerrilla force, either a raid or an ambush. Or to label it all a bit more generically, you'll be conducting a hit and run attack. Raids can be conducted against any sort of fixed location and are often done to gather supplies, advanced weaponry, capture prisoners, or similar. The goal is to pick a location that's isolated or poorly protected. Assault it, take whatever isn't bolted down, and get out of there before the enemy can react. Keep in mind that by carefully using a small distraction element to attack and draw attention to a location that's distant from the actual target, you may be able to get the enemy to send reinforcements in the wrong direction, thinning out the forces in the actual target location. Ambushes are similar, except they occur against moving targets. Ambushes can be conducted on supply convoys, troop movements, and so forth. The goal of an ambush is to strike hard, inflict damage, and withdraw before the enemy can bring additional forces to bear. Surprise is essential. The shock of sudden, unexpected contact gives the guerrillas an advantage that takes time for the conventional force to properly react to. Being able to move to within close range of the enemy and open fire without them ever suspecting you were there is a massive force multiplier. Surprise is so significant, in fact, that many operations should be outright aborted if it isn't achieved. There's nothing worse than trying to ambush a convoy that knows you're there and is choosing to bring heavy weapons to the fight to counter you with. In addition to attacking with surprise, choosing targets carefully and taking out key personnel or assets right at the start can throw the enemy into confusion. Targeting leaders, special vehicles, heavy weapons, and other important enemy forces can greatly magnify the chaos of an unexpected attack and make it that much easier for the guerrilla force to emerge victorious. Speed is likewise a major factor. As soon as contact is made, be that by friendly or enemy forces, the clock is ticking. The enemy will be working to do everything in their power to bring overwhelming force to bear on you. but depending on how far away it is, it'll take some time for it to arrive. Guerrillas must disengage and withdraw before the heavy assets can arrive. Mobility must be maintained at all costs, else the enemy will simply bring heavier and heavier weapons to bear on an immobile force. In the event that a guerrilla force is able to overwhelm a position and occupy it, exploitation of the target site must happen rapidly. What this means is that everyone needs to scavenge valuable supplies as quickly as possible before executing withdrawal. Search for heavy weapon systems, anti-tank or anti-aircraft launchers, medical supplies, night vision goggles or weapon scopes, and anything else that can prove helpful to your cause. Before you leave, it's a good idea to set some traps for the enemy, ones which their reinforcements will hopefully trigger. If mines are available, placing them throughout the area will cause enemy casualties, or at the very least, delay their efforts at resecuring the site. Anti-vehicle mines, placed some distance away from the site, located on roads that are likely to be traveled by reinforcements, can also be a great way to inflict further damage. The withdrawal plan is important to have rehearsed in advance. Each guerrilla must know what the conditions are to begin leaving the area, and how to go about that. This may be conditional, such as withdrawing when a given objective has been met, or it may be time-based, after X many minutes withdraw regardless of anything else. It's usually a combination of time and objectives, with time being the deciding factor. When withdrawing, it's often beneficial to split into small groups that each use different routes to exfiltrate the area. Having hidden caches to temporarily store weapons and gear can help the guerrillas to blend in even better on their way out. If enemy helicopters are searching the area, their rules of engagement will likely prevent them from engaging unarmed civilians moving in small groups. The weapons and gear can be recovered later once the search has been called off and their risk diminished. Ultimately, guerrillas will return to their bases to rest, rearm, and plan for upcoming operations. These bases should be scattered and well camouflaged, changing locations frequently to avoid discovery. Camouflage netting, overhead covers such as trees, and remote positioning can help to avoid unwanted discovery. All in all, it's important for every guerrilla action to have reasonable, achievable goals, as well as the weapons and gear to pull off the mission successfully, the element of surprise, and clear directions on when and how to withdraw and disperse back into the civilian terrain, and eventually back to covert bases. Even the best laid plans can go awry, and while not every mission will be successful, vigilance and a willingness to withdraw when the situation isn't going in their favor can preserve the guerrilla force and allow it to live to fight another day. If you'd like to know more about guerrilla tactics, I recommend checking out my Arma 3 Tactical Guide, which you can find on the Bohemia Interactive store. For more community guide videos, be sure to subscribe to the official Arma 3 YouTube channel. For other Arma 3 updates, keep track of the official website, Facebook, and Twitter pages. If you like more in-depth tutorial and multiplayer gameplay of Arma 3 and the previous Arma games, I'd recommend you check out my channel here. This is Dyslexy, and keep fighting the good fight.